Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood, coming at you from the shop tonight. And I've been working on my first attempt to do real inlays. I received a little grief from a few viewers when I did my earrings inlays, and I was educated. Those aren't inlays, those were cutouts, little pieces, puzzles that I put together. Those weren't inlays, and how dare I call them inlays. So I challenged myself to do a real inlay. I went to a local lumber specialty house, and they have a big bin of cutoffs, like $4 or $5 a pound. You just grab whatever you like. Well, this had a really nice piece of, I think it might have been curly maple, maybe, and some different Purple Hearts and Burbanga or whatever, bunch of different stuff in it. But I thought, you know what, this would be a perfect piece to do an attempt on a real inlay. It's about a 1/2 inch thick, and the little 10-watt diode is not going to cut through a piece of 1/2 inch curly maple easily. So this isn't cut through. I'm actually going to engrave in about 3.3 millimeters, and then cut out the equal amount in an opposing color, and maybe the Purple Heart or whatever, I'm not sure what it is again, and try and inlay that in and see what kind of result we get. So fingers crossed that we get a halfway decent project. So let's jump in here. This is going to be done quick. I'm not going to do the whole process for you because it's going to take a while. Let's see what we can do and what we can produce. So let's go. Okay, so this is just a scrap piece of wood, and I'm framing it off to the left so that if it doesn't turn out well, I've still got plenty more surface to try again. So what I'm doing here is engraving at 60 millimeters a second at 80% power with a 10-watt diode, 60 millimeters a second, 80% power, but I'm doing it on a bidirectional fill, followed by a line after fill, and then lastly following it up with a flood fill at I think about 60 millimeters a second, but only 50% power. And I'll put a link at the end of this to a video talking about flood fill, and if you're not familiar with it, how you can use it. But I had to do this probably 5 or 6 times. You can see there she's starting to get pretty deep cut, but I want to get down to 3+ millimeters in total thickness so I can get that full 3 millimeters of inlay pressed in there. So multiple passes with this in order to get down to the depth that I want it to be. Now this is the flood fill, and you see the little fireworks flying out of there, little sparks being blown out. Well, in my mind what's happening there is it's like a pressure washer. I've gone through there at 60 millimeters a second and 80% power on a crosshatch. Now this flood fill is just like if you had a pressure washer going in there and just pressure wash, blowing all of the small debris out of there. And when you see those little sparks fly out, that's the debris down in there getting blown out of the way. So I would engrave a level and do a line cut and then do the flood fill, and then this is my finished result. And you can see she's deep enough to accommodate the wood that I've got. And I'm not prepping this in any way other than what you've seen with the engraving prior to placing the inlay in there. Now this, I'm measuring the thickness of both the wood I'm using for the inlay, and then I'll take a plunge depth measurement and check the thickness of my engrave. So I'm 3.5 millimeters on my inlay material. And I didn't put a video in here showing the plunge depth, but I'm at 3.3 millimeters on the plunge, I'm pretty sure. This is the cut test just to see how many passes I'm going to need to do my inlay. And then I failed to hit the record button to record cutting out the inlay. But here you see a picture of the pocket, and then above are the inlay pieces, and that's 6 individual pieces. The H was in 2 pieces, and a hobo was another 2 pieces, wood was 2 pieces. But here I've got it glued in and pressed in, and I've rough sanded it smooth. It's still not, I still need to go to a plane with it and get it really smooth. But she was standing about a 0.5 millimeter proud or so, and just taking some sandpaper, 320, and sanded that down, got her good and smooth. Then I'm going back over with a finish plane to really get that knocked out and smoothed out. There's a little bit of blowout, but not a bad result for first attempt at a real inlay. If you've done this before, put some comments down below. Let me know your technique and what you think about this finished product. But for a first time, I'm pretty satisfied with it. Now there's no finish on this at all, but this is a curly maple, I think it was. And once I get a finish on it, man, it's really gonna pop. The contrast between the 2 woods and then the curly maple, it's gonna be nice. See, that's pretty thick wood. That's a good inlay. So let me know what you think. Drop a line if you thought this was informative. Hey, yeah, you can do inlays with the X tool or any diode. It just takes some time. You got patience. You can make it happen. But again, that was 60 millimeters a second, 80% power on a crosshatch, followed by a line fill at the same power settings, and then a flood fill at 50 millimeters a second, I think it was. Slowed it down and also reduced the power a little bit. You can see there the measurements, and that's a pretty big, thick piece of wood. I'm happy with it. What do you think? This has been Hobo with Wood. See you in the next video.